Welcome to episode 2 of Defend Forward, a cybersecurity webinar series where we try to provide actionable insights for stronger defenses as we work towards a safer future. And I am here with my very good buddy pal, also known as my co-host, Calvin.
Hello and welcome everybody to episode 2.
Woo!
Looking forward to it.
All right, so what are we talking about tonight, Cal?
Tonight we're talking about cybersecurity, or cyber in why business needs a cyber leader. And as we thought about this topic, Sig, one of the things that came to my mind was when a long time ago you and I got a question. So, who's the data privacy manager in this company? Because and I'm certain that people still get those types of questions. And so um, this should be an easy question to answer, in terms of why every business needs a cyber leader, but it isn't, right? Because a lot of things involved with that. And so Sega, since you're letting me start, um, I think the primary driver behind this is that it would be would I well you could say the primary driver behind is the size of the company, but quite frankly, no. Um, you can't run a company without somebody doing the finances. Um, you're going to need a cyber leader. Somebody has to have their eyes on cyber. So that'll be my
That's your intro. Okay,
that's
so
my
the
yeah, that's my
question tends to come up not so much that there is not someone with the responsibility, but that person is normally the IT person. So it's normally the CIO who you would find that they say, hey, okay, you're responsible. In most cases, because there is no real distinction between IT and cyber at times. And for some places, it actually works out. And for some, not so much. Some people take the stance and say, well, security kind of sort of audits or plays gatekeeper to IT, so it
right.
cannot really perform effectively if it sits within that group. But then I think it's based on the organizational culture because there are times when those dynamics actually work pretty well. You might sit within an IT team and they may be your advocates and your champions and they may help bring your program along. So I think it's all dependent on the organization itself. But what is more important that there is some cyber program because there are organizations that still exist that don't have a cyber program. Not me, not even talking about formally. They do IT stuff and they'll tell you, oh, we have a MSP that's monitoring our network, and they figure that's the end all of cyber right there.
Yes, they do. And quite frankly, I'm torn between whether we should tell them that they shouldn't do that, or we should tell them that no, uh, because you know, uh, I'm looking at it as an opportunity. What I see it as an opportunity. I see it as a huge opportunity for people like you and me in this space to advise companies that you really need someone. It doesn't have to, maybe you're not large enough for it to be their full-time job, but you have to have an eye on cyber. And again, I'll go back to my example about finances. You can't run a company if you're going to have to pay VAT in the Bahamas. You know what happened after everybody had to pay VAT, and they realized that, oh, if I don't pay VAT, I don't get a business license. If I don't pay NIB, I don't get a business license. They went on. They realized that they needed accountants.
CPS, yeah. CPS, I
Okay.
think.
See, yeah.
Yeah.
So otherwise, even mom and pop shops, they didn't think that they needed anybody to look after accounting. Well, you know what, guys? Now you do. Now you kind of do. And the same thing's happening in the same thing for cyber. Um, I think that a lot of businesses don't have their eye on that ball because it's something it's something that's going to happen to other people. It's not going to happen to me. So,
The reality is that that mindset still exists, not just here in the Bahamas, but throughout the Caribbean. We still have a small island mentality. So I was teaching class on Friday, and we were talking about, I think the topic was actually data protection. And one of the students say, it doesn't matter who's going to want this data. We live in the Bahamas. Like this was a real conversation. And I was like,
Right.
and that's what they want you to think. Because a lot of people take for granted, they don't realize that because of our size and our proximity to countries like the US, we're a good place to test some things out on. And
Yeah.
do we really care? I mean, do the bad actors really care who they steal it from? As
No,
long as we can make a money, are you going to pay the ransom? Are you not going to pay the ransom? Like Bahamian companies get hit. And I think in the last year, it's been more evident. We had Fusion, I think, earlier this year.
just recently,
UB
yeah.
was early last year. So
Right.
we've had some prominent places that have been hit. And
Central Bank got hit at one point as well, right?
I can neither confirm or deny that. So I
No, I
don't
think
work for
that was in
central
the
banks.
news, so I'm using that. That was in the news. I'm not didn't hear that secondhand, so that was in the news. So yes,
Hey,
but
for transparency, several, hey, over the
yes,
last decade, several central banks have gotten it.
yeah, and that's just it. The only way that you guarantee you can, even then you can't guarantee that you're going to get hit. Is to say that if you're going to be off the internet, but the fact is that cybersecurity is in fact it's a business risk. It's a huge business risk. Um, but we can we'll get into the specifics of the various business risks in just a second. But there is that mindset, as you just talked about, that oh, well, that's for other people. I don't need that, or who wants my data, or why is that important, etc. And anyway, we have a lot to say around those types of things. So you go.
It's been real like that. Um, like you say, data is big business now. And it's used for so many different things. I mean, if we just look at what our apps collect from us, not just geolocation. And I always like to use the example of the minute you say anything in front of your phone, it just starts giving you recommendations.
Yes.
I can't even miss and tell my phone. I think about traveling somewhere. It is giving send me like tickets, accommodations. It lets me
Yes.
know things to do when I'm there. I'm just saying.
Uh,
Um,
the the people say that paranoia is you're crazy because you're thinking that somebody is after you. But no, actually, just like you said with your phone, or it just seems like you're thinking about something, and the next thing, even on your browser, the stuff starts showing up. It's like, whoa, I was just talking with somebody about the phone about this the other day, and it's showing up.
yes, but everything's integrated. Think about it. When you log into a smartphone, what do you use? Basically, I think any phone now, what do you use to set up your phone? You set up an email. Use that same email that's tied to your browser and a lot of other things that you use. So it's just they're collecting information and sharing back and forth.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The other thing too about this space about security is that it's not just about business, though. It is about also individuals. And I think that's still taking a while to get through to people, how vulnerable they are. I meant to do some work on Pegasus, Sega, because even
This
though
is
you and
not the
I,
mythical horse. I take it we're not talking about the mythical horse Pegasus.
no, we're not talking about mythical horsepower Pegasus. You and I know about Pegasus, but 99% of the public out there know nothing about Pegasus.
All
Okay,
right. So why don't you tell them about Pegasus?
I've never heard about it. Well, but that's just it. I didn't read up on it, but basically what it is it's a malware developed by apparently the Israelis, and it's used to hack your iPhone. And when I said hack your iPhone, they own your iPhone, and you will never even know it. One of the ways that and they sell it they say to only to responsible governments. The
Horse.
thing
You'd never sell it to an irresponsible government.
No, which is what some of when we're going to talk about mythos in a second and how that's going to be handled. Anyway,
Sir, I like to travel. Do not cause me to end up on any stop list, please. Thank you very much.
So with Pegasus, it owns your iPhone. So it will know where you are. It can take over, it'll control your camera, anything that we know Meta says, look, when we are communicating via WhatsApp, it's all encrypted, etc. Well, if Pegasus is on your phone, you are really owned. And if you get a chance tonight, you're listening to us, go and just Google Pegasus. Um, the one of the stories about Pegasus that really hit home with me, not just and it has nothing to do with journalists in this case, because it's been used a lot against journalists, particularly investigative journalists. When countries don't like what a journalist is going to report, et cetera, they may want to target journalists. Or if they're in a country that where government doesn't like dissenters, they may want to use something like Pegasus. One of the stories about Pegasus that got me was about one of those princesses in some Arab country, and how she was trying to get away from her husband, and eventually she wasn't able to. She was trying to get away from some royalty husband, and she wasn't able to. Um, she was tracked by, or she was caught by, that particular piece of software. So
Technically, at this time, life and time that we're in, if you're trying to get away with anything, you need to leave all your smart devices, your ring, your watch, anything, eh? Don't have a pacemaker in you. They could track you.
yeah, yeah. So again, getting back to our topic, cyber leaders, or the importance of having a cyber leader in a business. And of course, it's important. It's just as important, as I said, that if you have to have a financial officer or an accountant, no, let's go back to the old word, a bookkeeper, you need a cyber leader,
But
period.
okay, let's ask, what is a cyber leader? And I'm not talking about what they do, but what would actually count as a cyber leader? Because there is this saying in the cybersecurity world that a company will offer a director post as a token spot, but it's a position that has no teeth, that does not seat you at the table, and it's just basically there to say that you have someone in that position. But tech, based on your point, that is a cyber leader. So I think it might be good to differentiate between having a cyber leader as a placeholder versus having an actual effective cyber leader, someone who's actually going to create and grow your program.
I think that, and what I foresee in the future, because certainly hasn't been the experience for you nor I think, is that with the generation that's coming up, I'm not even sure which generation to call them right now, but the
Z.
generation that were born after the smartphones came out, right?
I
Those
think
digital natives,
on
those
the
digital natives. That,
Alpha
that's
is the
alpha?
latest one. Yeah.
Right. Well, they may have an easier time of it. In my experience, and I think this is your experience as well, you're bringing in cyber and you are wanting to establish yourself as the cyber leader, but you're talking to people who don't appreciate the risks that's involved in all these systems that they've put in it, that they have within their organizations. And they see, I remember Sega, probably the time before you were born, uh, when I started down this road, um, the vice president told me, "Oh, that computer? Oh, no, that's my secretary. I don't need to use that." And there was a time that what would the leaders do? They give their secretaries all the passwords because they didn't want to be bothered with a computer system. So now, you move forward about 20 years, and now you're trying to tell them about cybersecurity. And it's like, oh, but you're not a vice president. Why do I have to listen to you about cybersecurity? This isn't, no, I don't, we don't know what you're
And
talking
you
about.
ain't
So
even on the right level to talk to me about this.
exactly, right? Or you're trying to do security awareness, and they're saying to you, why are you making that email look so much like a company email? Don't you know it's going to fool people?
Okay? Entrapment.
Duh. It's
Entrapment. That's what
entrapment.
that's
Yeah,
called.
right.
Entrapment, not enticement. Entrapment.
Yeah. Yeah. So just as you were saying, um, cyber leader, that position, it needs to be respected. Um, in that if it's like having a defensive attorney. If you're going to hire a defense attorney and you're going to listen to him, what's the point? And I'll equate that to a cyber leader as well. In that it doesn't put this, if the person has the knowledge, if they're trying to tell you and they're trying to guide you, but because they don't hold the position within the organization that you think they should hold, then you don't want to listen to them. And so what we're saying is that a cyber leader is someone who has the air of the people who are making the decisions, etc. I think you would agree with that.
I agree with that, but they also have to have the some substantive position as well. It's all well and good. I mean, you might get along with everyone on at the C-suite level or the managerial level, depending on the company organization. But if you are still not actually one of their peers, number one, if everyone else sits at a C-suite level and you are junior to that, one, the company is already sending the message that you are not as important as you think you are. Obviously, because if you were important, you would have gotten a C-suite position as well. So if your position does not demand that level of respect, I mean, it's not saying that everyone at the C-suite level is going to get respected because we know for a fact that is not
Right.
really what happens. Because
Mhm.
once you actually sit at the table, now you have to make friends with the table, at least, at some level, be on friendly terms. So that's a two-part step right there. So you can't, it's more than just having the air of people at the top. It's actually having a seat at that table and being able to move the needle, being able to present at that level, being able to be in those rooms where decisions get made for you to actually be able to say that, hi,
Yes.
guys, from a cyber perspective, this may be a bit of an issue and this is why. So at least people are making informed decisions.
Yeah, and that yes. And so that's when we talk about things like culture of the organization, etc. All right. I don't want to get off on a tangent, Sega, because I can. I'm like a preacher without a script. All
Are you
right. So
Baptist or Pentecostal or what? Or
I love
are you Catholic? Are you
no.
Catholic?
I love a good Baptist sermon. So I can sit there for 3 hours listening. So we're good.
You got to do
So
the depths. You got to do the depths.
yes, yes, indeed. But so organizations need a cyber leader. They need someone who is knowledgeable in this area, in terms of everything that it entails. And you can't simply say, well, we have that IT manager over there, so that's our cyber leader. Well, that IT manager's hands are kind of full. Um, there's some other things that need to happen. And then again, I don't know, you want to talk about the various sizes, or you think that makes any difference in
What
terms of
about
how
business
companies,
and what they
yeah,
need?
yeah.
Um, this is one of those times that I think size does matter. Um,
Hey. All right,
um,
Tom Family and Cheek, yeah, go ahead.
simply, one is because the size of your business is also going to determine, can, not will, but can determine number one, your budgetary spend,
Yeah,
which you can actually afford to spend in that arena. And secondly, it might be the type of company you have. You may have intrinsically low level risk. You may have gotten uh, a full service solution where that you're running your business off as all in one. It comes with built-in security, and you have an advisor that does it for you. I mean, do you need someone else if you only have like three employees, including yourself, and you guys aren't doing anything that is extremely highly sensitive? I mean, you might be doing something point of sale related and everything is going through encrypted terminal. So you don't even have real PCI DSS concerns.
right.
versus someone, a company that in a highly regulated industry like insurance or financial services who may actually be one mandated to have someone in that at that position. And then the other thing is to realize that the cyber leadership doesn't look the same for every organization. For some people, they have a virtual CISO and that works for them. For some, they prefer someone that's in office all the time and, works there. For some, they just need someone kind of interim. They're like, they still don't really um want someone all the time. So it's not quite a VC so, but they may bring in someone on a contractual basis to kind of set up the program and then leave it kind of turn it over with IT or whoever's supporting them to kind of manage and then just check up on them every six to 12 months. So it all depends on what your needs are um and
But
what your budget will allow for.
right. But the base, I feel, the foundation of all of it, though, is that the leadership um, should have some sensitivity towards cybersecurity um, in some way, shape, and form. The other thing, too, is that before we go further, we mentioned the word CISO, and I just want to say to just anybody who may not be in this particular field, a CISO is a Chief Information Security Officer. That's a member of what we call the C-suite, the CEO, the CFO, those sorts of terminology that you would have. Well, the CISO is the Chief Information Security Officer, the person at the highest level who sits at the C-suite, who is responsible for cybersecurity for a lot, in this case, medium to large organizations. A virtual one, well, that'll be people like me and Sego who will do that job for you for a cost. We'll look after those things if you had an in-house CISO or an in-house senior cybersecurity person would be doing, then we can do it because you can't afford somebody full time. Then you hire what is known as a virtual CISO,
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a minute.
of course.
So
You're good at that too.
why technically, I'm going to just say, hey, technically, I have this company and I don't have a cyber leader per se, but I have
Hmm.
a VCSO who's also my MSP.
Okay.
So
Uh,
technically, I'm covered.
oh yeah, technically you're covered. So if I'm your so um you so
But
you
they
all
don't
you
get invited. I mean, I don't really invite the MSP slash VCSO to actual meetings,
tell people
but
what an MSP
I
is.
just I just let them, deal with stuff.
Tell them what an MSP is.
Managed service provider.
Right. So this is where, and a lot of companies do this, and it is a good thing that they've done. Where to me, because I certainly believe in what I call economies of scale. In other words, if you can't afford an IT organization, you can't maybe if you can't even afford one IT person, but if you're using a company that's doing it for you, what we call a managed service provider, that's fine. Now, if you're saying to me that where I would come from with you as far as, oh, the managed service provider is also we're gonna let them handle the cybersecurity for us too. That's okay too, as long as you're asking the right questions of them. Because otherwise, as your managed services provider, I'm going to tell you everything is great. Of course, I'm going to tell you everything is great. Why would I not tell you everything is great?
Why wouldn't everything be less? It wouldn't be great. Like
Ex-
doing
ex-
stuff over
ex-
here.
exactly. So if you don't know the questions to ask that managed service provider, then I don't know. They
But
may not tell
how
you.
would I know that I don't know the right questions to
Well,
ask? I feel, first and foremost, I have a friend named Chatty and one named Claude. Between the three of us, I feel like we could have a comprehensive list of questions. This could be like vendor onboarding 5.0.
yeah. But the funny thing about even Chatty and Claude, the problem there is the thing is that you have to know how to use those tools.
You're trying to
A
tell me I
lot-
can't just type in the line? It's like using Google search, but you just have to be
Uh,
very clear.
it so again, everything comes down, I suppose I would say that everything comes down to motivation, right? Um, you're motivated as the business owner, you're motivated as the business leader. to keep that company operating, to keep your company operating, to keep your company profitable, not to damage your reputation that could sink you, not to be able to respond if something goes wrong. If you're just going to leave it in the hands of somebody else and never ask them questions about it, then hopefully you have some place in some agreement with these people, and you have you have cybersecurity insurance or whatever. And at that point, you probably don't even have
Cybersecurity
that.
insurance? Why
I
would I
know,
need
I know.
cybersecurity insurance, sir?
Yeah, I know. That's
They
another
don't
big.
want, did you miss the part where they don't want the data because we in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, like a dot on the map?
Well, what I can say to this audience is that thank goodness we have a new our up we have the Bahamas has updated its data protection um, act, and we're hoping
Bill,
to
right
see
now,
that.
it's still a bill right now. It
Okay,
has
so
not been
don't
enacted.
have an act, and the regulations are not out as yet. Um, but that's okay because it's only been since 2003 when the first one was done. So don't worry about it. But we're hoping that
We just hit the house 2020, the end of 2025, and we have a continuing government right now. So I feel like it's gonna happen. I
yeah,
think
no,
we've been
yeah,
doing pretty
yeah,
good in the last year plus as it pertains to cybersecurity and privacy. Um, one, CERT-BS has come up with the National Security Cybersecurity Strategy, which is a
yes,
big
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I know there's supposed to be some new innovation or something. Someone just told me about it probably in the last 2 weeks. I couldn't quite get the distinction between CERT and them, but hey, I'm gonna follow it up and see if we can get them on.
Or
Probably,
there's another.
probably against each other to explain it better. And
The other
then,
good thing too is that CERT, I
the
think,
data
was moved
protection
under,
commissioner, like you
right?
said, just did the updated bill. And so we have two things working kind of cohesively that I think is going to be a driving force in the industry locally.
I think the other good thing too is that CERT being moved now under national security, I think is also a good move. And we also hired a an AI commissioner, AI, what is he called?
Ambassador
AI ambassador.
of AI and innovation.
So is he gonna run around to the Vatican too? Does the Vatican have AI? So he has to run there and meet the AI in the Vatican? Or
Look
what's
here,
he do?
when he has agreed to be a guest, so when he does, you feel
Yes.
free to keep that to question right there for him, okay? You feel free to ask him that question. I trying to make friends here, not
What?
enemies.
What? No,
Look
I'm
here,
curious. Why they use
I
the
may
word
want to be a
ambassador?
part of the delegation to go to Vatican City. Don't mess this up for me.
No,
Do not mess this up for me.
and I'm just curious why we call it an ambassador. It is, look, and I think that it is something that is needed, but I just wonder why they call it ambassador. That's what I'm
Don't we
making
have
fun
a
of.
new Ministry of Innovation or something?
Yes, we
I
do, and
feel like
national
that goes
development
on and on. I mean, true,
and
one was
national
before the
development.
next, but I feel like it goes cohesively together. We just
Okay.
gotta stay tuned. Something coming.
Yes. So,
So let me ask you this question. Like we
yeah,
said, even when there is a cyber leader, it can fall under several branches. Most notably, it goes under either IT, legal, risk,
yes,
and finance is normally one of those four buckets.
right.
Now, some unicorn organizations actually allow them to report directly to the CEO. I've been wanting to work for one of those unicorn organizations. So if anyone out there knows of one of those, hook a girl up. Thanks.
Because the point that you're making is that you get into these what most organizations do. That's why you say it's a unicorn organization, because otherwise, but what most organizations do is that cybersecurity just falls underneath IT, information technology, which is fine in a sense, but um, you could have what we call conflict of interest. The CIO, the Chief Information Officer, he may want his boss, the CEO, to think that everything is 1,000% fine. Whereas the person over here working in IT who's responsible for cyber risk is saying, hey, no, we need boom, boom, boom. This is our information security program, is not where it needs to be. We're not following whatever guidelines. And so now your cybersecurity has no way to get outside of the information technology circle because perhaps the information technology leaders don't want it to get out, and you have conflict. So that's why I think you're saying that it's great to work for an organization where cybersecurity more or less stands on its own and does not have to report into information technology.
I'm not saying that. As a matter of fact, now that I think on it, I have worked at an organization where it did not sit in IT. Um, there's pros and cons, I think, to no matter where it sits. When it sits in IT, if the relationship is good, you have an advocate. If it sits outside of IT, it can become a conflict because, again, it's almost like you're the snitch for IT. Um,
Intel audit, I've worked there too. So I'm a
um,
snitch. I'm a snitch.
when it sits in legal, it may not be fully understood because legal does not normally fully understand what cyber does because it falls more under the techie realm and legal really isn't.
Yeah,
And so risk tends to be okay for some point, but risk tends to look at it at a very narrow standpoint, whereas cyber is much more than just GRC and user access management.
right. GRC, I like to just spell out those
Sorry, governance,
acronyms.
risk, and compliance.
Governance was in the plans. Go ahead.
So, like I said, there's pros and cons no matter where it sits. So, um, I think it is up to the organization, but I think it's really more of where that cyber leader sits from a organizational level more than how they fall in the org chart. As long as I think they're at equal value with the people that they're trying to get to, I think it's a pretty okay deal.
Right. So not having a cyber leader, you're looking at things like no one's watching. That's the most obvious risk. And there are lots of risks that can actually hurt businesses um, related to your IT, your information technology assets that in fact running. So the other thing too is that if you don't have a cyber leader, then the capability too is also it's not growing as it should. The capability of or the maturing of your cybersecurity position.
I
So
think how they really term that is there's a lack of strategic planning.
yeah,
Because your focus and your emphasis isn't on cyber, it's more holistically on IT. And if it comes from the CIO, depending, the CIO can be more cyber centric than the previous one or vice versa. I think we've seen that in different positions over time. You see that there are some people who IT for them is more on the infrastructure. For some, it's more on the application. For some, they're like, okay, let's take this, but let's add dash of cyber in here and let's see what we end up with. So there's no one size fits all. But when you have somebody who's because even when there's a CIO, there's normally still someone who's in charge of applications, someone who's in charge of the infrastructure side, someone who's in charge of the help desk. So that is someone who is actually their mission is actually to provide strategic planning and guidance in those areas. The only
oh yeah,
difference with cyber is because cyber extends beyond IT, it actually needs a seat at a bigger table because it influences other departments. When you start talking about things like creating a risk register and how that would affect business units outside of IT, or when you're trying to create partnerships with, again, external business units, and you're looking at things like they're going to tell you something far-fetched, and you could be your first thought is, are you serious? And you want to say no, and then you have to slow it down and try to figure out how you could make this work, and not say no offhand because you want to work together. You don't want to come across as combative, and because everybody has this view that cyber is so no, no.
no, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that.
So
Yeah, you're saying no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. But no, and that's not the place where cyber wants to be. Um, the salespeople want to bring in the best and the brightest or the latest gadget applications, whatever that is going to help them to drive more sales. Um, and you as a cyber person has to look at it and say, that's great. Now, what are the risks that this is going to be bringing to the organization and how can we mitigate those risks? Hmm.
right. And the minute you start talking about risk and say, you can go ahead with that if you're willing to own it. Like, let's document that you own this risk, that you were advised that this is not a good idea and you still want to move forward. And then people start backpedaling a little bit, like, what? You want me to put my name to that? Mm-mm.
And the risk register.
Yes, that's going to be shared with the C-suite? No. But we do have a
No.
question online, Kelvin.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on cybersecurity and physical security slash surveillance being under the same department?
Um, I'll go first. So it's cybersecurity and surveillance, and what was the other thing?
And cybersecurity and physical security slash surveillance.
Oh,
Do you feel that they could coexist under the same department, or do they need separation?
um, if you can afford to separate them, I think I'd much prefer to have them separated. Physical cybersecurity, cybersecurity to a certain extent is concerned with physical security, but physical security to me is another huge animal on its own. When I think physical security, I'm almost thinking like a police force. I'm thinking of it's not that there's no that they don't
Overlap.
overlap, but that's a whole other area as far as I'm concerned. Should they be in the same department? Ideally, for me, no. Can it happen? Yeah, yeah, of course. Anything can happen. You can make it happen.
I'm going to agree with you, simply because, like you said, surveillance tends to be a beast, especially if it's a large organization. I think if you have a much smaller organization, it would work better if you combine those tasks because your cyber program won't be as developed or detailed or even expected. Like I say, especially if you're not in a very regulated industry. Now, if you are, it ain't gonna matter. And so in cases like that, it would be more ideal, especially since you're gonna need people who are gonna be watching the cameras 24/7, 365 and stuff like that. So yeah.
And the thing, what I was thinking about when I think about surveillance, particularly when it started to move outside of the regulated environment that I'm thinking about, um, I pointed out, I say, okay, good, we're starting to put these cameras in place, but you now have to have somebody watching those cameras because me as a customer, as your guest or whatever, if the camera is there and it's not working, um, that camera gives me a certain level of security, of feeling secure. And if it's just there as a dud and something happens to me and that camera wasn't working or nobody was watching it, you're gonna have a problem. You as a company you're gonna have a problem because you gave me that sense of you gave me that false sense of security when in fact you had no intention of providing me with that level of security.
We had planned to, but what had happened was
Yeah.
at 6 a.m. on that morning,
Yeah,
consequently,
sure.
that one camera stopped malfunction. And we're currently investigating and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, that's what still they call that negligence, and you're gonna have to pay for that. I'm sorry.
I feel like you could sue. I feel like you could sue somebody, but it's
Yeah,
all right.
you certainly can. Um, Sega, I may be jumping ahead, but something hit me, and it comes out of the one of the things that I see you do so well, where you take real world things that happen in your life, and you're because you're thinking about risks and cybersecurity all the time. It you're able to take what happened and put it in the cybersecurity context, and it just fits so brilliantly. And I'm sure everybody's thought about this, but February 28th, we had a momentous occasion in the world. And I think I'm going to remind you, February 28th was the day that the United States of America and Israel attacked Iran.
I was about to say, I decided to come to do with the straight home mess.
No, not even there yet.
What?
No, not even there yet. This has to do with resilience.
Mhm.
That attack took out, what, about 60 or 70 of the leaders of Iran. but it didn't make a difference. And saying it to me, this is a perfect example of operational resilience and what we preach that businesses need. You think of the you think of how Iran has continued to defend itself, continue to be the place that it was before that attack, despite the fact that all the leaders were wiped out. They had a plan in place to say, we're going to continue operating. And that's the same thing that we know that we try to get businesses to do, to have a plan in place.
Okay, first off, I'm gonna say, please note that me nor Calvin are agreeing to the war or any of the warlike
No, no, that's
activities
not
that
what we're
have
saying.
happened to date. We got to be clear because Sega likes to travel and Calvin travels frequently. So let's just be clear. I don't need to be caught in any airport trying to come
You
home.
know, anybody pulling you on
No,
any side
not at all.
offices. No.
But you are actual, that is very true. That is very, I thought about it, but I didn't really give it deep thought, but you are correct. Um, it's also said, um, it goes back to strategy. Some people, or I should say, sharing of a vision and having buy-in, because there's more to it than that. Because for that to the operation to have continued despite the loss of leadership, that means that one, there was a strategy. Not only was it an effective strategy, it was a communicated strategy so that when a loss happened, someone else was able to effortlessly step back and because they knew what the strategy was, they knew what the plan was, and they knew what the next step was. A lot of times you would find that one, there are businesses that operate without any resiliency plans. Two, they may have a plan. One, it has not been updated since the plan was written. You would find it's been outdated. You would find that there are people on the plan that no longer work for the company. In some cases, they are
Yep.
now deceased. And then every once in a while, you find someone that has the plan. It's updated, it's been reviewed annually. And then you ask a question. So when last have you tested this plan? And they'd be like, so you're supposed to test it too? Yeah, you have to test it. Now, I love when people test the plan. The question then happens, did you test the plan according to your plan or according to your mind? Because they're two different things. You can come into a scenario and you just say blanket, which is still a part of testing, but does it actually match the plan that you formally documented and you presented? So, yes, it does highlight that resilience is very important. And yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, look, we find examples where we can find them. I mean, but then to me, that one, that just said, whew, this is what we need organizations to be doing. They need, just as you said too, you have to have buy-in, but you have to have a plan as to what you're going to do when something happens. Remember the old thing we'd always say in terms of what you were just saying about only one individual having the plan, and we'd always say, well, what if this one individual gets hit by a truck? What happens?
Or COVID, or we now have hantavirus or whatever it is.
Yeah. So so
I think I
cyber
like the plans where people be like, we know the plan. We know the plan. Do you have it documented? No. But if it happens, we know that we know how to fix it. That's all that matters. We can figure it out. The good thing is, in most
yeah,
cases, they do. Think about it. People do. Do they do it in as quick as possible? Do they do it without narrowing the amount of additional risk they have
right.
introduced? Not necessarily, but did they get it done? Yes, they did.
Uh,
And people need to understand that having the plan sometimes really is about communication, effective communication, and saying that, hey, this is a time to be competitive. Like, hey, let's try to outrun this clock. Let's try to get ahead of this. This is a good time. Incidents and breaches is a breach especially is a good time to get be competitive and be like, I could close this down before they could do any more damage. Containment.
so let's
Hey,
talk
push
about
yourself to the limit. Hey,
yeah.
Microsoft says we need 10 days. Don't worry, I can do this in 24 hours. Full caffeine. 10 pounds later.
Yes. Let's talk about cyber cyber as a business risk and not just a technical risk? Because that, again, kind of goes back to the discussion of earlier about the early days, people just thinking that, oh, that's just the computer people. Um, but our use of technology, um, and then the fact that everyone all over the world, we're now all interconnected, um, means that we we can't business cannot, and I hope that, but we don't, I don't think they do, but a business cannot just look at information technology as that cyber is just that's just an IT issue. That's not a business issue. Tell them a little bit about Tell us a little bit about why cyber is really a business risk, not just an IT risk.
Because cyber will affect everything from a business level. Um, if you have a cyber incident, that can affect your revenue. It could affect your operations and your continuity. It could affect your brand recognition and your customer trust. It can open you up to regulatory and legal fines. It could hinder strategic growth. Um, it could affect partnerships, market confidence. So it's more than just, hey, your computer doesn't come on.
Hmm.
Let's go back. I think it was about 2 years ago when CrowdStrike did that update and had the world in the chokehold
I
for
think
a
it was
couple of
July,
days,
yeah, June or
especially
July,
them
right? Yeah.
first 8 hours.
Yes.
There was massive loss of revenue. Think about companies that didn't know that they actually needed a manual process because they ain't had no one who still know what manual processes are. They never created one. Um, CrowdStrike had a moment where I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, they had some drops in shares because people were really concerned. We know about companies that wanted to actually take them completely out of their environment because they were like, this if this happened once, it could happen again, and we don't need to be in this position again. So it will affect more than just the IT people because the rest of the business operations need to work. And if you want to see how true that is, let something go down.
Yes.
You need IT to fix it, but it's your department that's actually feeling that outage.
I want
So
to talk.
it's
Yeah,
one of
go
the
ahead.
reasons why we tell people that cyber is everybody's business
Right.
because an attacker can get in from anywhere. And we all play a role in keeping not just the company or an organization, but ourselves safe. And I think you would mention it earlier that a lot of the talk always is around that a lot of people don't internalize how important cyber is because um, they just look at it as an organizational thing. You know, it only happens in organizations. So when I do security awareness, I always try to bring home an actual example. And I said, let's start with the CIA triad. Little note, some people trying to get rid of that foundational knowledge still. I found that out today. Wild.
Okay.
So CIA stands for confidentiality, integrity, availability, which is the foundation of cyber/information security. And when I tell people this, I always say confidentiality relates to only people who need to know knows how much you get paid. Integrity says that the amount you're supposed to get paid actually makes it from your organization into your bank account. And availability says that when you stick your card in the ATM machine, you're able to get your money out. That's an
Right.
example you could relate to, right?
Right.
The reality is most of us don't care about the organization outside us getting paid. Mess with our money though. This now is very important. When I
Right.
want to tell people about doing security awareness training, I always remind them of an incident that happened several years ago, I think in Britain, or somewhere in Europe, where CEO's executive assistant or whatever did this money transfer for a lot of money. And basically she was the victim of a BC scam. And
What kind of scam?
please do not make you know what?
Would you say
Let's
a
go with
BEC?
phishing
What was
scam
that?
because you
A phishing scam. Okay. All right.
let's go that you make me explain everything.
Okay. Sorry.
And when they went, they actually fired her for it. And she won the case because she said, you can't fire me for something you never trained me for. You never told me that this was a possibility. You never gave me any training on this. So me
Right.
falling victim to this is really your fault. Eh? You made me do it. She got rehired and she got paid.
And those types of incidents are far more prevalent today because of um,
I feel like you're about to call up my friends.
because of the God, because I'm talking and trying to think at the same time, I'm losing my train of thought. But because of the fake, what do you call it again? When we fake someone's voice, we fake someone's face.
Deep fakes,
Deep
voice
fakes.
cloning, AI. Let's just go. You was trying to call up my friends. You
Exactly.
could have just say AI. You could have just
Exactly.
say AI. You don't have to go and be like, this what they do. Like, what?
Um, and I recall one day on a job where um, the finance department called and there was this issue, but it turned out that it was the vendor themselves who got scammed, and it wasn't the company. It was the vendor who fell for a scam, sending their money someplace where they shouldn't have sent it and never getting it back. We talked earlier about the Iran, United States, Iran, and Israel Iran war, and are you familiar with what happened in March 11th, a few days after the war started,
Sure.
and a company called Stryker?
Okay, I vaguely remember Striker, but you call in these dates. That ain't
Oh,
nobody in my life
no.
birthday. That is not a
Oh,
food holiday.
oh, it's
Okay?
not.
I wasn't Mexican that day.
No, it was a Mexican. No, no, but so this particular incident was funny to me in that way, in that apparently it was linked back to an Iranian-based hacker group called Handler. But what they did was that they had access to Stryker. Stryker is a huge um, health healthcare company. They don't operate in the United States, but also with like 5,500 employees in Ireland as well. But what they did was that they weaponized Microsoft Intune and they killed, nobody could get into their systems because they wiped the mobile phones. If you had a laptop, they wiped those. So again, I thought that was all these attacks are ingenious, but I thought it was interesting that they were able to use Microsoft Intune without, and Microsoft has since changed it where not just one person has to say, yes, go ahead and do this, but now it has to be multiple. Now you need to have two people on this kill switch to say, you can go ahead and do this.
But if you think about it, it wouldn't be the first time that Microsoft had any issues. Because remember, at one point they were using Microsoft Forms and in phishing emails to appear more legit. So the reality is people need to realize that everything that started off that sometimes turned bad, start some good roots. Like there's a lot of things where people created being altruistic. We wanted good things, eh? We want a pacemaker now. Does someone turn around and be like, I wonder if I can make his heart skip another beat? I'm just saying. I'd be like, I wonder if I do this, will it
Right?
skip one beat or two beats? Could he still live? It's like technically science at that point. Technically.
Um,
I feel like I need to do another disclaimer. I am not telling anyone to hack
no,
any
we're talking. No, but
medical devices
we're talking
for
cybersecurity,
scientific
right?
purposes.
There is a here's an example of where the sometimes the legislators don't understand the risks in what they are legislating. So I've been made to understand that as of December, it became law that for electric cars, that can be controlled by technology, that there has to be a backdoor in it for the government. Now, but the government hasn't really thought that through. So if that gets hacked, could you imagine a hacker then cutting off all the cars on a freeway at a certain time of the day, particularly during rush hour?
But speaking of that, Didn't Waymo just have an incident like this month or very recently?
Tell people what Waymo is. That's the
Yeah,
Google
the
company.
people
Yeah,
Google
yeah,
so mad.
yeah. Okay. All right. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Waymo is an
Waymo.
autonomous
Autonomous.
vehicle.
Yeah.
I think it's under the Lexus brand. It's actually under a luxury brand. I feel like it's Lexus. Um, I've driven in them. I'm
Yeah,
down for
you
being
would. Yeah,
lazy.
yeah, you would. You'd probably bungee jump too, but yeah, that's okay. But yeah, it's an autonomous vehicle, and you see them in San Francisco a lot.
I did mines in Atlanta.
Atlanta. Okay.
But I mean, think about it. The thought of hacking them has been around for years. There was a series years ago with Halle Berry when she was an astronaut. I cannot remember what it's called. Her husband was into the AI tech or whatever, and they killed him off using what? An autonomous driving vehicle. I'm like, technically speaking, we live in an age where we say that everything, once it's technology, once it's connected to the internet, has the potential to be hacked. It may not be hackable today, but it does have the potential at some point in the future, be it distant or so, to be hacked.
Well, and of course, when you talk like that, the thing that immediately comes to mind for me is the steal data now encrypt and de-encrypted later with using the new computers that are coming out. Oh God, these things roll off my tongue when I'm not talking publicly. What's the new brand of computers that are coming? Yeah, you do.
No, when you call me under the spot, like
I got you too. You too. Okay, I'm
I
sure.
feel like you're not
Check,
talking
check.
Lenovo. I feel
No,
like this
no,
is not a thing pod.
no.
Not a
We're
thing
talking.
pod.
No, we're talking about. It's not the brand of computer. It's the way
It's
that the
another
computer,
supercomputer.
the supercomputer, with the new supercomputers. Um, in any event, um, what the thought is that these new supercomputers are going to make today's encryption obsolete. And
Yes, because they
so
have the help of AI,
it,
which is halfway writing itself. But that's in another episode. We talk about AI in
uh,
another episode.
uh,
But we almost at time, so we got to wrap up.
yes.
What's your final thoughts on this?
My final thoughts. Obviously, this is called Defend Forward, and we're talking cybersecurity. Um, so, for us, it's like it's like everything else, right? But good side, bad side. We're here to talk about what we think about our risks, the risk to individuals, risk to business, and that's why cybersecurity is important. And we're also hoping that we will. What we also like to do is to encourage young people to look at cybersecurity. You're interested in computers, you're interested in information technology. Well, get interested in cybersecurity. There are not enough people in it, and there are great opportunities. And the word I was looking for, Sega, was the quantum computers.
Yes, quantum
Because
processing. Yes.
yes, quantum processing that hackers are look what they're doing with the you obviously we know that you're supposed to encrypt your data so but even if with encrypted data the thinking is that they will still steal your encrypted data even if they can't decrypt it now because they're figuring that with quantum computers later on they're going to be able to decrypt it.
Yeah. So I feel like the one thing we didn't talk about was what actually is covered under cybersecurity, but that can have to be another episode because we had time. But
Okay.
I'm gonna close out with questions because there's some questions I think business leaders need to be asking now, especially if you're the CEO or the CIO, the CFO, the CRO, CLO, or any of those other O's in the C-suite.
Okay.
Um, you need to start thinking about who owns cybersecurity in your organization. And you want to do this for the same reason we do asset management and cybersecurity. You need to know what you're going to secure.
Yeah.
So, and you also want someone who wants to speak to you about what your cyber risks look like. It's all good to know the risk, but you need someone who's actually going to be able to put that into common sense phrase for you and tell you that, hey, If you do that right there, you can get hit with a lawsuit. If you do that over there, you can lose your data. And you also need someone who is going to actually be at the table to get the business priorities and see how they can actually make that align with their cybersecurity objectives, how they can make it not just about cybersecurity and what they're doing, but how can we make the business better? How can we make the business more secure? And no program is effective without measuring. If you can't report on it, if you can't say that, hey, you're going from point A to point B, and this is going from 0 up to 4, depending on how you scale it. You got to be able to show growth over time. Are you going to be stagnant? Are you going to stay reactive? Are you actually going to get to a point where you become proactive and you strategize and you're trying to get ahead of problems and seeing what you can best do to mitigate the risk in your environment? And then
Well,
the most important question here is, if something happened tomorrow, who would lead? In the time of an incident, who's going to hold it together? Do you actually have the plans? Do you actually do the tests? Do you know who's going to call? Or are you just saying, hey, we can call somebody and then they can call somebody, and at the end of the day, no matter what was down, we just know we got to get it back up in the shortest amount of time.
without killing the business.
So that is pretty much all I have tonight. Anything else you want to add before we say bye-bye?
No, you can go ahead and bring us to a close. Thank you.
All right. So thank you guys for staying that extra minute. Thank you for staying tuned. And we hope you do join us next time, June 2nd, same time, same place, online. And I think we should start bringing food on it. Y'all should bring snacks.
Virtual snacks.
Yeah. Until next time, have a good week.
Have a
Bye.
good week, everybody. Good night.